Mr. DJ back for WTBC's Top 30 survey, the YouTube channel that I got separated out from my other YouTube channels. Kind of a special countdown. Just found this survey on the internet just last week. Already up to number 9. Up from number 11 to number 9, WTBC had an eclectic playlist. And part of the reason for that is because Tuscaloosa is a college town. And college students, they're usually more open to the alternative stuff, to the heavier rock and roll, to the introspective lyrics, than tend to be more open to it than the general population per se. And it kind of reflected on WTBC's playlist, the song coming in at number 9, Led Zeppelin's Over the Hills and Far Away. Of course, a lot of the DJs who were on WTBC, they were students at the university who DJ'd at WTBC for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Some would move on into television in Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, and some would move on into bigger markets, go from WTBC to Birmingham, WTBC Tuscaloosa to Birmingham, and then to Atlanta, and well, there you go. All right, number 9, Led Zeppelin, Over the Hills and Far Away. This song, this particular record, Jimmy Page, the guitar riff. God, the classic guitar riff. He starts this off with a 6-string guitar, but he moves up to a 12-string, I believe, playing in unison, this guitar rhythm section. But it was based on a record by the Yardbirds. Of course, now he was in the Yardbirds for a while too. Jimmy Page was, called White Summer. A lot of the riffs in this record found in that old Yardbirds record. Led Zeppelin did this song live after the Yardbirds had broke up. Jimmy Page was in the Yardbirds for about 1 or 2 years, and they became the New Yardbirds, and then the New Yardbirds evolved into Led Zeppelin. Jimmy Page, the song Led Zeppelin, this is a fascinating band. Well, needless to say, Led Zeppelin is a story of two worlds, a story of two bands. Here's a band in the early 70s when they were touring the U.S. They set the gold standard for debauchery. Although I'm sure that was more than likely surpassed by some of the bands that came after them, like Kiss and Motley Crue. They probably wanted to outdo Led Zeppelin. But when they came back to England after the grueling U.S. tours, they were family men, particularly Robert Plant and the drummer John Bonham. By all accounts, that even though John Bonham would go nuts during the tour, at home he was known as a great family man, about as laid back as they come. Although maybe not completely laid back, he had his own quarter-mile road. That's right, had his own road where he could take his car and speed down that road going 250 miles per hour. Still sowing his wild hairs, that's for sure. John Bonham, Bonzo. That's what they called him, the drummer. And John Paul Jones was known as Jonesy. By the way, when they got their first recording contract, they got some help. They came highly recommended. You won't believe who recommended the band. You won't believe it. Dusty Springfield. Boy, a 360-degree turn from Dusty Springfield, wishing and hoping to Over the Hills and Far Away and Whole Lot of Love. But Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones, they were arrangers. They were session musicians before they became members of Led Zeppelin. These two guys played on some of Dusty Springfield's music on some of her albums. She knew them. She knew they could play. This song, the particular song I'm going to play for you, was written in 1970. It was started in 1970. Jimmy Page had already did the musical track. He laid down the instrumental track, and Robert Plant added in the lyrics. And this was at a cottage in Wales. This is so fascinating about Led Zeppelin because they'd migrate, after they'd go on tour, they'd migrate to the British countryside, the lovely British countryside, go into these little British cottages, and they'd write these great songs. They'd start writing these great songs. It was just, I remember even reading one time, Robert Plant said something that he remembered 1970 so fondly, because they'd come up with these great records out there in the British countryside between tours. And they started on this record. And this has a Celtic undertone, no doubt about it. This does invoke the lyrics, the music, the guitar riffs invokes. It invokes the British countryside, the land of Jane Austen, right there. Led Zeppelin at number 9 on W. This is a brilliant record. And another brilliant record, of course, was Swamp Witch, which I talked about earlier. But Over the Hills and Far Away, I absolutely fell in love with this record when I first heard it. Number 9 on WTBC's playlist, July 18th, 1973.